I am one of the principals at Agency One. On behalf of my partners in our amazing Agency One team, I am thrilled to welcome everyone to our bi-weekly webinar series. This is the 10th webinar we have hosted this year, and all of the webinars, with the exception of one, have been recorded and can be found on either the Agency One website or on our YouTube channel. If you are looking for information on asset protection and estate, income, and gift tax planning under President Biden's administration, digital marketing tools, strategies, and resources that you should be using to help drive more business, a premium financing update, underwriting information, a current economic update, information on whole life carriers and opportunities in the whole life marketplace, or perhaps are interested in an industry perspective from the president and CEO of John Hancock Life Insurance Company, I encourage you to access these webinars. The speakers are renowned industry experts and have included nationally recognized estate planning attorney Alan Brown and advanced markets consultant Randy Zipsey, digital marketing expert Samantha Russell, the Senior Vice President and National Director for Premium Financing at U.S. Bank, Taylor Miller, economist Anirban Basu, Brooks Tingle, the President and CEO of John Hancock Life Insurance Company, and our very own superstar underwriting team, led by my partner, Dennis Bartos, and others. For those of you that are new to Agency One, a brief introduction. We are a very high-touch, exclusive BGA. Exclusive, what does that mean? We have a platform called the Agency One 100, and one of our guiding principles is to work with a small, select group of advisors in a very large way. The advisors that are part of this group are like-minded, highly successful, creative, and driven. We focus on life insurance and fixed annuities. If you have other needs like disability or life settlements or standalone long-term care, we have strategic relationships with the best providers in the industry to refer you to. We truly have the premier underwriting department in the industry, led by my partner, Dennis Bartos, and advanced markets and case design departments led by my partner, Gonzalo Garcia. If you want high touch, personalized attention, advocacy, and want to feel like you and your cases are important, then Agency One is or should be your BGA. If you would like to learn more about us, the Agency One 100 platform, and how you can become a part of it, or if you have a case that you would like to discuss, please reach out to us. I have some important additional announcements about what Agency One has planned for the next few weeks, and I will be sharing them with you at the end of the webinar. Now on to today's webinar, Inforce Policy Monitoring featuring Proformex. Proformex was built to give the life insurance community the tools they need to better serve their policy owners and grow their business exponentially. We are thrilled to have with us today Mike Pepe, President of Proformex, along with Kelly Lytle, the Vice President of Customer Experience. Mike understands why policy monitoring is so important. He started his career at MassMutual and quickly became one of their leading agents. He then went on to co-found a financial advisory firm called River Financial Group, a full-service financial firm, and after focusing for many years on estate planning, he started the Tully Group, a firm that focused on ongoing policy management and support, especially for trust-owned life insurance. So it was no surprise when, in 2016, Mike went on to form Proformex. In addition to Mike and Kelly, we are also thrilled to be joined by two Agency One advisors that have been using Proformex for quite some time and are fully taking advantage of everything that the platform has to offer, Bob and Ann Larkins. Bob has been in the financial services industry for over 35 years, and he works with his better half, Ann, and I can attest, Ann is truly Bob's better half, who is also a financial advisor, and she has also spent the last 10 years of her career managing the operations of Larkins & Larkins, and she is very hands-on with Proformex. All of the speakers will try to respond to any questions that have been asked at the end of the presentation, So please submit your questions through the question or chat feature at the bottom of your screen. We will be monitoring them as they are submitted. This session is being recorded. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to Mike Pepe, President of Proformex. Mike, take it away.
All right, thank you, Kathy, and thanks Agency One for letting us being part of this series here. So what we're going to do, Kelly's going to lead us off. We're going to put up a presentation. Kelly will start it off, and I'm going to jump in, and then we'll hear from Ann and Bob as well. So Kelly, all yours.
Couldn't get the unmute up. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Kathy, and everyone at Agency One. As Mike said, we're just thrilled to be here and grateful for the chance. And of course, Ann and Bob, thank you both for joining. It is so wonderful to have you on, and I'm glad we can share this time together and have what I think will be a really fun, really engaging conversation. And so, yeah, as Mike mentioned, we want to do a few things. So we'll talk a little bit about, kind of Proformex and how we think about Inforce monitoring, Inforce management, who all is involved, who are the different parties and everything and how they interact. We'll cover the data because it's so paramount in its importance with everything that's happening around monitoring and managing proactively policies. Mike will dive into a little bit more specifics around the platform itself. There'll be some screenshots. They might be a little hard to see. We'll have some steps along the way and everything like that, and give everyone a chance to really get a good view into Proformex that way. And then, of course, and absolutely most importantly, engaging with Ann and with Bob to hear their experiences and from their perspective and their lens. And I think with everything from their backgrounds and history, along with Mike's background and his history, I think we'll have a really fruitful and fun and engaging discussion as we go through. So with that, we'll get moving. So this is something, we kind of have this tongue-in-cheek and funny, comic to kick things off, but this is something we hear quite often, and that's this idea that client service is a lost art. Maybe it takes too much time. Maybe it's just hard to do. Maybe everybody is busy and you don't have the opportunity and the hours in the day to do it. But it's also something that we know, when applied in a positive way, can lead to more referrals, more opportunities, the ability to manage risk, prevent lapse, especially everything happening now. And so it can lead to a lot of amazing benefits. And as we sort of look out into the landscape of how can we encourage and how do we cultivate a really and foster a spirit of proactive Inforce monitoring, we, I think, have a really unique perspective and how we think about it as a full community. And I'll talk a little bit about the different, groups involved and how everyone works together on the next slide. But it really is important that everybody has this unique role to play in kind of the life cycle of managing and monitoring policies. And depending on where you kind of come at it from, you might have a bit of a different role. And for us, it starts with, as we think about this, can we help you create a single common source of record for all of your policy information that you can manage and monitor these policies over their full life cycle? Can we help drive operational efficiencies, whether it's helping alert and notify you to things happening with the policy, or giving you a place where you can document activities and other undertakings with the policy, so you have them for compliance or best interest tracking or whatever the case may be. And at the end of the day, we're working to help you proactively monitor and manage these problems, which helps you work in the service of your policy owners just that much more. As I mentioned, it's a huge community involved here. There's so much work to be done when we think about, and we'll get into this a little bit of just how many. Ann and Bob were sharing a great story of how they were working together just last week and able to have some really fruitful and meaningful, or I guess maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, in meaningful conversations. And so I'm excited to have them share a little bit. But again, everybody has this kind of role to play, whether it's the carrier themselves and how can you make data more accessible? How can you get those key data points to us quickly and accurately that help everyone monitor and manage their policies? Maybe it's on the distributor side. Kathy mentioned everything that Agency One does today, from case design and advisory and all of those differentiated services that they're offering that become so valuable to your business. And then, of course, on the advisor side, right, driving client interactions, those key meaningful conversations, sales and service, and all the follow-ups that are involved. And as we look at it as Proformex and as a service provider and a software platform, how can we make all of this work easier for you? And we can't solve every problem, but how can we just make it easier, hopefully a little more fun, and just enable and encourage and foster a lot of critical pieces of value, from data access and data visibility to time savings, whether it's just finding and having critical info on a policy at your fingertips, having that information consolidated across multiple carriers and multiple products, or going and really diving deep in and doing requesting carrier statements and illustrations and doing a full policy review to help you kind of manage risk inside your book of business and all these things. And so that's what we're hoping to pay off and make more accessible and easier for you. Spend a few minutes here just talking about the data itself. With Proformex, this is kind of a never-ending goal of ours, but our effort is really to help every one of our relationships have the most holistic and complete picture of the data and information available on their policy for every policy. And so I've shared here a few stats. We're well over 600 billion in the total death benefit that our platform is monitoring. At the rate we're going, it will be over $1 trillion soon. And that's just an incredible number, and the growth rate and everything over the last few years has just been astonishing. Billions of dollars in premium, again, monitored every single day. Values are changing and everything. We have more than 20 unique carrier feeds. And so those data feeds are providing critical pieces of information, updating and refreshing on a regular basis. Could be daily, could be weekly, could be monthly, just depends on our relationship with the carrier. And we're getting key pieces of info such as cash value, policy status, so we're able to see quickly if a policy is in lapse or lapse pending, things that Mike will touch on a little bit later. But again, these key pieces of data that are refreshing regularly. But again, those feeds themselves might not provide this holistic, as comprehensive of a picture of that policy as we can get. So we also are actively monitoring policy information for more than 200 unique carriers. And so we're working with our relationships and our partners, customers, to request carrier statements, request illustrations, and bring that information to Proformex and enrich the policy data that we already have. So again, it's a lot of different pieces. They're all working together to provide this, this picture of a policy and help you proactively manage it. Here's a list. I won't run through them all. These are our currently approved carrier data feeds. We have a really robust pipeline of names that we're talking with and working to bring in. And again, these data feeds are coming to Proformex. It's updating, could be a weekly cadence, could be a daily cadence, could be a monthly cadence, depending on who the carrier is. And again, it's key pieces of information like cash value and like status and things like that. And happy to always, we can always jump offline and talk in more detail about any one of them. But again, it's about how quickly and how accurately and how consistently refreshing can we make that policy information for you. We have a number of carrier data feeds active today through Agency One, and we are also working to activate a few more, just kind of nudging and working with the carriers to get them moving a little faster and everything like that. as it relates to those data feeds themselves, wanted to talk a little bit of how they can work. So when it comes to the data feeds, right, authorization is almost always at the distributor level. So the distributor is authorizing Proformex to receive this regularly refreshing stream data file from the carriers. And then once they've done that, right, that information comes into Proformex. We are able to match it. So if you know, and I know, you know, Ann and Bob and have talked to the team a lot about this, but you know, those policies are in Proformex, have been added to Proformex, able to match that policy information with the new currently refreshing values, and everything is syncing up automatically. And then that helps us, and Mike's going to show a little bit of this in a few minutes here, apply some of our proprietary analytics. We have an amazing data team, several data scientists who are really analyzing and evaluating and scrutinizing policies and asset classes in really unique ways that help us surface hopefully the most meaningful opportunities and at-risk policies and things to hopefully drive really meaningful conversations for you. And then of course, there's also a whole lot of other really valuable information that we're capturing there, whether it's policy status around lapse and lapse pending, or certain opportunities around term and you know, key and critical dates that are coming up there. And again, as I sort of started with, this all really works together when it's all of the pieces of the community. So it's the distributor side, it's data authorization at that level. It's the one-to-one client policy owner interactions that can come from the information. And hopefully it's with Proformex able to help you aggregate and visualize all of your info in one place, and then take it a step further by helping you visualize and drive really meaningful activity from that information in hopefully a very easy to do way. Whoops. Mike.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Kelly. So, you know, for me, with my background, you know, I started my career, you know, with a captive carrier, and I was there for 7 years, and obviously selling products was great, but manage them weren't necessarily that hard because everything was in one place. But as I went independent and find the right products across multiple carriers for my clients, it was very beneficial for my clients, but it was harder and harder for me to keep track of every policy I had in force. And myself, like the rest of the industry, you know, it became more of a reactive approach for Inforce management. You know, I was hoping everything was working, but as soon as I got a lapse pending notice or a premium notice, I tried to jump all over it and hopefully save that policy. So at the core of what I tried to build with Proformex was really make this a proactive process to really, you know, help you monitor these policies at scale and make sure nothing falls through the cracks. But again, it starts in 3 different components here. The first thing is, you know, get in line of sight on your entire book of business. Obviously, you know, over the years, many of you probably wrote carriers for many, or products for many carriers and possibly many distributors as well. So, you know, to get all that data and your book of business in one place is a huge value add, first and foremost. And we're able to help you do that from as sold data, from CRMs, from other sources that you have. Obviously, we can enrich it with the carrier feeds that Kelly spoke about, you know, through our relationships with Agency One and other distributors. You know, we could pull that data in, and then, you know, we take it a step further because that data is great. It's a starting point. It not necessarily is consistent across every carrier and every product. So, you know, how do we streamline getting the rest of the data? We're able to automate the request for statements and illustrations on your behalf. So again, it starts with getting your line of sight on your book of business. So for the first time, you could see everything in one place. Then from there, you know, with our data team and our scientists, you know, we really start to analyze that data for you. You know, not only can you see, you know, by product type, you know, what's your mix, by carrier, premiums due each month, anniversaries each month, but we take it a step further and we really analyze that data and we say, okay, you may have 200 or 300 policies, but where are the policies you should be spending your time on now? So we give you that insight, you know, bubble up anything that's lapse pending. If we see a policy that potentially could be at risk, we let you know sooner than later so you can start getting your eyes on it. Then also replacement opportunities, term conversions, term period ending. If you do premium finance and or life settlements, we're looking at all that stuff, and we're bubbling up policies that may fit certain profiles for you. So it's all about finding and prioritizing policies. So you're working on policies that are the most important for yourself and your clients. And the last part, which I'm really proud of, is we don't stop there. We help you take action on that. So, how do you get that information to the advisor, and then how do you help that advisor present it to their clients? So it could be a portfolio report, it could be an individual report, but what's the best way to give you something that you could scale and be consistent across carriers and products? So again, this is the platform and what we build the foundation on for Proformex here. Kelly, can you go to the next slide? It starts with that monitoring. Again, line of sight on your book of business. So for the first time, total death benefit, total premium, total cash value, surrender value across your entire book, regardless of when you wrote the policies, where you wrote them through, and what carrier you use for the coverage. Very powerful. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to different advisors, that simple question, how many policies do you have? It's hard to answer because it's difficult to get line of sight on it. And again, we're solving that problem for our clients. We also embedded a monitoring tracking way where if you choose to, you could track the performance of individual policies, and you could set guidelines and parameters, and then the system will alert and give you a red, yellow, green light if it's on track, off track, or within an acceptable range. So it really helps you tie back to the client's needs, and those guidelines can be adjusted throughout the life of the contract. So very powerful there. For myself, obviously, if anything was in red, I knew it was not meeting my client's expectations, and we got right in there, had a conversation with the client, tried to fix what we sold them, and if not, we tried to find a better solution. So those monitoring guidelines and making it simple to understand and tying back to your client's needs, that's a win-win for everyone. And then what we do as well, regardless of how it's performing, what are potential opportunities coming up from what we're seeing across your entire book? And again, we could call out policies that are projected to lapse in the next 5 years, term conversions coming up in 2 years, term periods ending in the next 2 years. And if you do life settlements and premium financing, we could bubble up potential opportunities for that as well. So very powerful on the monitoring side. Kelly, if you could go to the next slide. With the next slide, this is all about, okay, let's filter through the weeds here. In the background, we're looking at the data for every policy, but on this dashboard, we're bubbling up policies that we have identified that, there's some issues or opportunities. So first and foremost, from those carrier feeds, any policy that we see in a lapse pending is going to show up for you. So, on a daily or weekly basis, you could go in there and exactly if anything's in lapse pending. Then we have at-risk policies. And again, what we're doing there is we're looking at the data that's available for the policy, and on a dynamic daily basis, as new data comes in, we're running through algorithms that we created and say, okay, these policies need your attention. And then we rank them by, how soon should you be looking at this policy? Should you be reviewing it immediately, within the next 90 days, 180 days, within a year, or on a regular cycle? So it really helps you focus your attention. Then the last one is obviously the replacement opportunities, the term conversions, term periods endings, potential replacements from older products to newer products, just bubbling those up so, you could focus your attention. And, this to me was a key differentiator because, we had the data, we had the visibility, but how can we help our customers really focus on policies that need their attention? And this was a game changer, and we're excited about where we're taking this in the future. Kelly, if you go to the next slide. And then when you talk about action, okay, action means different things for different people, but in the old days, I used to create Excel reports for my clients, grouping policies together and showing them what they had in one place. Well, you can do that dynamically right in Proformex now. Simply, you could create any portfolio you want, name it whatever you want, group policies together, and then you could choose how you want those policies to be shown, either by owner, by product type, by insured. It will do the subtotals for you. It will total up all the portfolio totals. And now we enhanced it so you have the ability to add comments by individual policy. So for every policy in the portfolio, if you add comments, it will show up in the report. And this is one click, PDF comes out with your logo. And now you could have those conversations with a family that has multiple policies, maybe it's a company, whatever it may be, it's all at your fingertips. Simply click and go there. Next one, Kelly. And then the next one is, if you want to do individual reviews, again, in the old days, for me, it took me 3 hours to do a review. I remember going through the old filing cabinets, pulling out a file for my client, trying to figure out what exactly I sold them 10 years ago, then putting together what I needed to request from the carrier for the illustrations. Once I got that back, I had to spend the time reviewing it all. Then I had to build some type of format and report to give to my client. We took that whole process, and with technology, we automated as much as we can. So the system, when you're ready, it will request the statements and illustrations, and you could customize how you would like those illustrations ran. It goes out as a first-party request from you to the carrier. Those documents come back to you via email. You upload them into our platform by dragging and dropping them. We take that. We have technology that reads those documents. We have a validation team. If anything gets kicked out, then we alert you when the policy is ready for you to review. So now it takes that 3-hour time frame down to 5 to 10 minutes at the end for you. And again, on our reports, it could be very simple. It's a snapshot report, or you could customize the report and showcase product alternatives. So Kelly, if you go to the next slide. Very powerful, these templates that we create for you. You could create different templates by product type. So cover pages with logos, with disclosures, but then consistently across all your carriers and your products, when you deliver these to your clients, it's focused on their guidelines, what's important to them, so they know how their policy is performing. It makes it very simple for them to understand. But then we could pull in all the detail that you want to present them. And again, you have the ability to remove detail, to remove sections here, to change the order, and really present the data in the format that you want to your client. But at the end of the day, if there is an issue with the policy and you want to showcase alternatives, right in our reporting platform, you have the ability to add a third page. And you could show internal modifications, external replacements, life settlement evaluations. You could add your commentary. So we really gave you a tool to really deliver to your client that could be consistent and scalable, as you start doing these for your policyholders. Next slide. So with that, we'd like to hear from Bob and Ann, obviously. So Kelly, I'll turn it over to you. I know you wanted to moderate this a little, so I'll step aside right now.
Well, most importantly, I'm excited to have you, the three of you, sort of going back and forth with all of the wealth of experience. But thank you, Mike. That was fantastic. And Ann and Bob, thank you both very much for joining us. And I think just to get started, love to hear from each of you. Just kind of take us through some of your history with Proformex and how you're using it, and some of your recent experiences, and we'll use that as a kickoff. And I'm sure Mike and I will both have a lot of follow-up questions as we go.
Our relationship with Proformex goes back a couple of years when Agency One formalized their relationship with Proformex and sent us the initial data feed of all the policies that I put in place, or we put in place with Agency One since 2013, and it went to the end of 2019. From there, the value that I have perceived with Proformex has been a couple different situations that are very poignant. One individual client whose family business was sold at the end of 2017. I was referred to him by an advisor in Louisville, and we started working together with him. He was making strategic decisions with his attorney as far as what to do with estate taxes, what to do with gift taxes, so on and so forth, and ended up placing a very substantial policy with 7-figure single premium. But during the exercise, I discovered that he had numerous policies that involved both he and his family, his wife, his 2 sons, his brothers. Some of these policies were put in place by the business for an outside the family partner with 4 different policies. So altogether there were 8 or 10 policies, and we were able to gather all the data and find out Inforce information to develop what Proformex calls a portfolio. I call it an inventory. I label Proformex as a policy inventory management system. So the takeaway from that particular situation is that it added tremendous credibility to our relationship directly with the client, to the point where with all of these outside policies that I was not involved in placing, we charge him an annual fee for just to keep the portfolio or the inventory current, and he's happy enough with the service and with the overall relationship that he volunteered to provide a testimonial for our updated website. And he mentioned in particular the fact that he doesn't have to go 17 different places to get information, that he has a single point. Another situation that is really fairly common as Proformex over the last couple of years has become an intricate part of our practice. And my my primary responsibility is client and prospect relationships. And on a trip last week to Louisville, had meeting with 2 different clients. The first situation is a very, very successful urologist that over the last 10 years now, we've placed numerous policies on, and being able to sit down with him, and this is something that we had to manually do before, and frankly didn't really do as good a job as we would have liked to. But being able to sit down and when people buy life insurance, in particular when they buy numerous life insurance policies, it's it all just becomes a jumble to them. They don't remember what they bought when or for what or anything else like that. And for me to be able to let Ann know the information that I need, and to customize the portfolios. The second situation was a very, very successful businessman, family business that is, we've placed policies now on 3 different generations, and different ownership arrangements, different strategies, and to be able to sit down with the client and put everything in one place. And to be perfectly honest, it reminds me of the situations and what opportunities that there may be that, you know, life gets in the way of. And it's extremely helpful to organize me and to be able to have me provide information to the clients in a very succinct manner. I'm very, very grateful and thankful to have somebody that pulls all this together for me from an administrative perspective. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Ann here, because she's the one that really has the direct relationship with Proformex and can speak about her experiences with the company and the platform. Ann? I think she's frozen.
We
Yeah.
froze it.
I think she just froze.
It looks like Anna's frozen. Hey, Bob, maybe you can send that dog upstairs to go bark at her feet or something, because I know she brought the dog downstairs to you. While we're getting back to Ann, and hopefully she'll be able to dial back in a minute. Mike, I'm not sure if you want to further comment, or Kelly, on what Bob has said. We have a number of questions that were submitted, and we can kind of bounce back and forth. What would you like to do?
Yeah, let's start on the questions while we wait for Ann. So I think
Okay, so one of the first questions was, does the system analyze all policy types, whole life, IUL, VUL?
yes, it does. So the product types, obviously term, indexed, whole life, universal life, all the product types. We are working on adding annuities too by the end of the year. So we have some data version of data sets for annuities, but life insurance, any product type, we support and monitor.
Terrific. Are there any plans to add a guardian feed?
Kelly, that's yours.
Yes. So perhaps taking an easy road on this answer, our goal is to add as many data feeds directly from carriers as is possible. And as somebody who lives that every single day, I can tell you it can be a lengthy process. It can be a lot of back and forth. And so, yes, I have no time horizon for it at the moment. But what I can say is, again, if we go back to kind of the framing of the entire community working together, right? It's, you know, we're
to start my video.
coming back.
Yep.
I think we're about to have
Lisa, can you start my video?
Ann join us again.
Oh, I think she needs
Yes,
Lisa to start
Lisa
it.
needs to start my video.
Okay. Lisa, if you're there.
Taken care of.
Thank
Yep.
you.
There we go.
There you go.
I'm sorry, my entire internet went down. All right. We still have time for me?
We do. Bob had just decided to
I'll
turn
make
it
it
over.
brief.
That's okay. Bob had just turned it over to you to talk about your experiences with the implementation of Proformex and, managing the system and integrating it with your book of business and, and how you're using it and what you're seeing.
Okay, I just had two comments I wanted to make, and one of them had to do with the administration side of things, because it comes from 2 points of view. One of them is Agency One. Agency One automatically feeds new cases into Proformex, which makes our job very, very easy administratively. And the second is this automatic feed from Proformex to call for the annual reports to be run. And basically, from my point of view, all I have to do is either upload the PDF or scan and upload the PDF. So that is a very simple process. And then at that point, it's a matter of maintenance. It's just regular maintenance, setting up those portfolios that Bob talked about. When he needs to have these, they need to be ready to be sent. So it's a matter of keeping your house in order. keeping your book, if you will, up to date, and make sure that the parameters that you set, that Mike was talking about, that you're able to make sure that each individual has the appropriate parameters set within their policy. And if everything is set up initially, it's hands off. You do not need to make this a laborious task. It is time-wise, I'd say it's just a matter of allocating bi-monthly checkup, if you will. As the policies come in, they need to be scanned in. And I think it's a matter of individual taste, how often you do that. If you want them scanned in the minute they come in, get them in there. If you feel like it's a weekly task, do them all at the end of the week. And it's simply a matter of how you run your book, how current you have to have those scanned in, as to how labor intensive the administrative portion of this is. The other aspect of this is, Kelly, your end of it, customer service from Proformex just couldn't be better. And I mean, everybody talks customer service, but when it blows me away every time I ask for some service and they go way above and beyond what my expectations could be, it's saying a lot, because today's world, our expectations are very high. We want what we want it yesterday. And Proformex has been, I can't tell you. So anyway, I love Max, and these guys, you got to understand, they're in Cleveland, so they invented fun. And if you guys have not been to Cleveland, make it a point, make it a travel destination, because I'm in love with Cleveland. I'm the other end of the state of Ohio, so I'm a little prejudiced for Ohio. So anyway, those are the things that I wanted to say about my experience with Proformex. I think they're really top drawer. So there you go.
The key for me is that not only do they deliver what they promise, but they go above and beyond. It really has been a great relationship, and it's like I said, it's been a credibility builder and credibility magnifier for existing clients.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Agency One, for bringing it to us.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Bob. So Mike and Kelly, we still have a number of questions that are pending. Do you want to continue on down that road? Okay. So when Ann came back on, we were talking about a Guardian feed and adding Guardian as a carrier. And I think, Kelly, you had mentioned that you're working with Guardian and trying to bring on as many carriers as possible. The sky is the limit. There's not a limitation to the carriers.
Exactly. Our goal is, and so we're ordering documents, right? So if we don't have a carrier feed, we're ordering and requesting documents from, we're pretty much, almost, 200 plus carriers. So we're able to leverage that system, that process, to bring in a lot of critical pieces of information. But the data feeds are, really, what's very, very paramount because of that consistent refresh. And so no timetable on Guardian, but there's also, our goal is to have, as many carriers as possible, as I was saying, live with the data feed. And so the way it works, frankly, is the more folks who are advocating for this information and for, and not even for Proformex, right? It is just for having this information accessible, regardless of where you're accessing it. The more folks who are advocating for that type of information, the better for the whole community. And so, I know Kathy and we've talked a number of times about talking to carriers and, hey, helping with introductions and things like that. So the more we can do that and the more we can have those sort of touch points to help everyone understand how critically important these pieces of information are to everything that folks are trying to do with post-sale servicing and management. That's how we'll get there. And it won't be tomorrow, it won't be next month, but it will be over time where we have this truly first-class, robust ecosystem where all the carriers are doing that. And so we're working as hard as we can to get there.
And I could add one thing there. This is a huge point for everyone, right? So, I believe we got to hold these carriers accountable. So we're creating a carrier data assessment scorecard that, we're gonna release to all our clients. So you're gonna know, the carriers that send data, do they send it daily? Do they send it weekly? Do they send it monthly? What data points do they send? When we rest statements and illustrations, what's the average time frame to get it back? That way, advisors, when you make decisions on, okay, I'm ready to place a product, you're going to be able to look at Proformex and say, okay, what are the best carriers as it relates to Inforce management? And we're going to have that list for you. So, I think that's going to incentivize these carriers to give better data quicker, faster, because it's just a win-win for everyone.
Mike, Kelly, that your comments directly feed into the next point that I wanted to make, which was we've been working with Proformex basically since they introduced this technology in the market for about 4.5 years, I guess it is already. And one thing about Proformex is they are extremely responsive and user-friendly. So if you see something on the platform that you think could be improved, if there's something on the platform that you think should exist that isn't, they are happy to engage in a conversation with you to see if they can build it, address it, and improve the technology. This is something that is constantly evolving, and they are fully equipped with the manpower, the brain power, and the resources to continually be tweaking the technology to make it better for all of the users. And as it relates to the carriers, whoever asked the Guardian question, if you've got a phenomenal Guardian connection, I would tell you to advocate with your Guardian connection for them to partner with Proformex so that Proformex can get the feeds. This is it's an effort that works from both the BGA standpoint, from the advisor standpoint, and from Proformex's standpoint in order to make this platform as user-friendly as possible and as all-encompassing for everybody. The next question. So, and this came from someone that said the majority of our policies are not yet with Agency One. I love the not yet. How do they get added to the system if they've got policies that Agency One doesn't have?
Yep. No, that's a great question. So first and foremost, all we need is a list of those policies. And if you have detailed information on the policy, that's even better. But if you have the basic information enough for us to get it in the system and set up our system to request statements and illustrations, all we need is a signature, assuming you're still the write-in or servicing agent on those policies. And we could start gathering the statements and illustrations and building out the platform that way. Originally, we had no feeds, when I first originally put this together. So it's built to do that. You could even request documents at the policyholder level as well. So again, it takes time, especially if it's not through Agency One, but we could get your whole book of business in there. Then, as we build relationships, if the distributors that you wrote through before, if they become a client, there's a potential way to, pull in those policies for you as well. So.
Yeah.
And as a user, I can attest, and Ann can attest, there have been numerous situations where outside business has been brought into our feed. It has not been an onerous process.
So a lot has been, there's been a lot of conversation recently regarding best interests and fiduciary standards of care. And this question is regarding data analytics and actionable intelligence. And the question is, under BI and fiduciary standards of care, to what extent can I rely on the timeliness and accuracy of the data feeds you receive that inevitably trigger input provided by the Proformex platform? Will your protocols hold up to meeting with these standards in the event that the advisor becomes the subject of a regulatory or legal complaint?
Yep. So I'll take that one because I lived it. I was doing best interest before it was a thing. So again, at the core of the platform, it ties back to the client's needs first and foremost. So, the proper way to do it is you sell a policy and you set the guidelines based on the as sold illustration. So how long did the client, buy this to go out, the lapse age, the death benefit, the premium, the crediting rate, those are set. But each and every year, if you tie back to that client's needs and just review the guidelines with them and say, okay, are these the same or do we need to adjust them? And then you do the report on it, that gets saved each and every year in the client archives. So you could go back, 5 years in the past and see, what you presented, what their guidelines were, and what was the outcome. And if you are showing them, here's how your policy is performing, here are your guidelines, here's what we could do to get it back on track internally, here are product alternatives. And if the client does not choose to move forward, I used to document it in the client notes and it was all in there. If they move forward, we documented why they moved as well. And it's all about a track record and documenting your file. So we believe it's going to hold up pretty well to protect not only the policyholders, but the advisors as well.
I don't think that, I hear what you're saying, but I think that the advisor is looking for something a little bit more specific regarding the time frame from which you get the data feeds and the accuracy of the data feeds, which frankly, I mean, you're basing your reports on the information that is being provided from the carriers. So between the time you get the data feed to
Yep.
the time that you generate a report, what is that lag time? Because I think that what the advisor is saying is, I'm relying on a report that you generated based upon data feeds that you got from the client. And
Yep.
is that in real time, or is there something that ties the date of your reporting to the date that you got the data feed so you can make that representation?
Yes. So on the report, when you finalize it, it references, when the report was created. Good rule of thumb is if you're doing it annually, you have the annual statement and the current Inforce. But if we're pulling in data, let's say it's a monthly refresh of data for cash values, surrender values. If you go to do the report and you want updated information, you could edit and input the updated values right there, then save it and print the report and have the most up-to-date data possible. We do have carriers that send it daily, but most of them send it monthly. But again, you have the ability to override the data and update it if you need fresh data in the system.
And the other thing too is, again, the advisor is still running and finalizing that report, right? It's not a report that Proformex is sort of just auto-populating necessarily from the data. And so, as it relates to the data and analytics, right, that information is meant to serve as a prompt to hopefully help surface policies that may be in need of deeper scrutiny by the advisor, by the team that's closest to it, that has set, knows the point of sale information and capture the best interest standards and everything like that. So it's not meant to take the place of that. It's meant to hopefully prompt really meaningful engagement at the policy and then ultimately with the policy owner if needed, where that deeper review into it would have to take place, right? So it's not a replacement for that. It's more of surfacing of something that can be brought to your attention, and hopefully then you evaluate it based on you as the advisor knowing the policy owner, knowing the policy, knowing what intentions were at the sale.
Thank you. I think we just answered his
Kathy?
question. Yeah.
Kathy, if I could say something, particularly with index and even more so with variable policies, with the values changing on a daily basis, we get quarterly reports, and I believe that Ann uploads those. But if I am getting ready to meet with the client, she can get an absolute current valuation on whether it's account value, surrender value, whatever the case may be. And that can be updated immediately.
Thanks, Bob. Okay. Another question was asked, which is, does the agent need to be the broker of record, or is it possible to include parties with a third-party authorization?
So no, either the policyholder, the agent, or the GA are the three types that we're able to request for. And again, it's a first party request. So again, it would be that policyholder. So if you're working with a trustee, let's say, that trustee would sign the letter. And we have a link that can go out automatically, while we're using their signature, they could sign it, and then we could embed it in that letter. And when the request goes out, it knows that we're requesting at the policyholder level. The documents will go back to that policyholder, and then that policyholder forwards it on to the advisor to take the regular process and load it up in the system.
Okay, another question that came in, which I was expecting, was dealing with premium financing and life settlement applications. The question is, these are accelerating critical areas of service applications and liability exposure. So how are you dealing with premium financing and life settlement? And I know you could probably do another webinar just on those two areas of interest for these advisors, but just briefly and at a high level. And again, folks, if we don't go deep enough with your questions and the answers, we're going to provide Proformex with contact information for everybody that's been on the webinar, so you can go much longer and much deeper to the extent that you would like with Proformex. But just let's talk a little bit more about life settlements and premium financing.
So high level there, we're looking at the data of the policy, and, we score policies, for life settlements, how old the policy is, what's the age of the insureds, what's the death benefit to cash value ratio, is it a product type that, makes sense for life settlements, and we score it, and then we flag it for you that it's a potential life settlement. On the premium financing, we could score policies. Does it have large premiums? Does it have large death benefits? And we could flag them, say you may want to look at those. But then in our system, you have the ability to, if you're working with third parties for life settlements or premium financing, you could send information to those people. You dictate where the email goes, and it will create a little snapshot and send it to that person to work on it. And then the last thing on the portfolio reporting, you could build customized portfolio reports and add in custom fields to track the loan as it relates to premium financing. So we'll do all the data as it relates to the policy. You could get the loan information, plug it in there and save it. And now you could track the premium finance through the portfolios.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And we've got one more question which dealt with retirement income planning. And it says, for the past 10 years, life insurance has occupied an important shelf space in this component of financial planning. Can you please discuss Proformex's applications in the area of retirement income planning?
Yeah, so a lot of our clients have been using the portfolio reporting and adding customized columns for distribution. So distribution age, distribution amount, and total distribution. And each year when they do that, they add those in there, or when it's going to start. So again, we could track the cash value, we could track the loan, we could track the surrender value, but then you could further customize it. And, you could say, okay, you could be looking at a portfolio and know that for this person, distribution started at age 65 and it's anticipated to get 100,000 a year. And then once you're in the distribution phrase, you could track how much you're taking out of the policy each and every year.
Great. I do not see any more questions. We are at the top of the hour. So before I conclude, Mike or Kelly, is there anything further that you would like to add?
Yeah, one thing, encourage you to go to our website. If you go to proformex.com/agency one, there's a whole page exclusively for agency one. There's a lot of resources in there, and there's a little button that says schedule a demo. Encourage you to spend some time, schedule a demo. Our account executives would love to take you through the platform and answer any questions you may have. So,
Kelly?
No, I just, Mike hit everything there. Thank you everyone for the opportunity to join. Thank you, Ann and Bob for joining with us. And again, encourage everyone to reach out. Any and all questions. We are, I think, a very, very accessible bunch. So anything you need, anything we can do to help, we're always there. So just let us know.
Okay. Mike, Kelly, Bob, Ann, thank you very much. That was great. Now, what is next? On Wednesday, May 19th at 3 o'clock, Agency One is going to be hosting a webinar where we will be discussing the GUL marketplace, product updates, and conversion opportunities. Our featured speakers will be our very own head of case design and illustrations, Ed Stark, and he will also be joined by our head of advanced markets, my partner, Gonzalo Garcia. This is the session that you will not want to miss. Those are my closing announcements for today. If you have any questions or would like additional information, please reach out to me or Gonzalo or Dennis. Thank you for joining us. And that concludes our webinar for today. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.